Happy Tuesday, guys. Welcome to another live stream for college basketball here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. He is Terrell Furman, host of Fast Break Bets. I'm Matt Perrault, host of the Daily Juice podcast. We go through the slate of college basketball games every single Tuesday. You guys can jump in with comments if you would like, any questions to be answered, any thoughts you may have on the slate, on the card as we rocket towards the college conference schedule, conference tournaments, and then the NCAA tournament. Terrell, how are you on this Tuesday? Good to see you.
Oh, good and great. I'm looking forward. We're getting into it. Some of these teams got 3 games left. Like it's really getting there. We're almost there.
Let's start with St. John's. I had a conversation. Dave Sherapin and I had a little argument today, but a conversation about St. John's and where St. John's might wind up falling in the bracket. So when the first NCAA tournament, look ahead, when they did the 16 teams that came out, St. John's was a 4 seed. Some people thought that was too low, but others think that that's appropriate given their record, their quad 1 wins, and just overall what St. John's has looked like this season. What do you think St. John's seed is going to be if they were to win the regular season, which it looks like they're going to? They have a 2-game lead here. They should win the regular season. And then what if they win the Big East tournament as well? What's the highest seed you could put St. John's?
I think 4 is about right. I think 4 and 4 is honestly, I understand what people are thinking. You think UConn wins this conference and they're 1 seed. You think Marquette wins this and they're max a 2, maybe a 3. That's sometimes where they slot Marquette, but it is a little bit of ace. We haven't seen St. John's at, this high in college basketball in a long time. And so a lot of people don't really remember what that is like, but I think this is about right for them. I really do like them defensively. I like them scoring wise. It's just, we didn't get to really see a lot of that in the non-conference. They really flourished their wings coming in here and going into the Big East and being as dominant as they were. So I think St. John's is fine. They're a 4 seed. I'm perfectly fine with it. I don't think that, I want them any higher personally. As somebody that's trying to bet St. John's in the future, I'm perfectly fine with them being a 4.
Yeah, I think 3 is their ceiling. I don't think they could get to the 2 line strictly because of they are 3-4 with quad 1 wins. Sure, they're 7-0 in quad 2 and 8-0 in quad 3. So they've done well against teams they're supposed to beat. But look, the loss to Georgia and the loss to Baylor will jump out. And I just don't think they have the same schedule strength as other teams when it comes to competing, trying to jump over them. Because, look, to be a top 1 or a 2 seed, you have to be a top 8 team in college basketball. And I just don't think they have, when you compare it to an Alabama's resume or a Tennessee's resume or even a Florida's resume for that matter, talking about potential 1 seeds, if not a 1 seed, they're going to be 2 seeds. And I know I love the Big East. We've talked about the Big East a lot here about where
very nostalgic basketball conference there.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some real quality there at the top of that. There are 5 really good teams, in my opinion, in this conference. The depth might not be there, but I don't think there's anything really to be all that mad about if they wind up being a 4 seed in the dance. And I think I'm with you. I think they were appropriately put there, and maybe they get to a 3, but I think they may stub their toe. We'll see who winds up winning the Big East tournament in New York. It's a home game for them, obviously.
And it's a lot of SEC teams that got to get put in here, man. And you got to slot those teams in, and they want to slot them as close to the top as they can and get a bunch of those teams in. So I wouldn't be surprised if a few SEC teams, may have a good showing in the tournament. Maybe somebody knocks off of Auburn or Florida, and that propels them into a 2-3 seed and kind of pushes St. John's down. It's fine. Maybe they should be a little bit higher. I won't complain, but I prefer St. John's stay as low on the radar as possible.
So you like them in the dance then? You want them off? You want a better price on them?
At this point, it's hard for me not to go with St. John's at this point. I'm really, really interested in what Pitino has with this team. I think he's figured it out, especially on the defensive side of the ball and still being able to muster up offense. I think that's going to go work a lot of wonders for them. And Big East teams, I like how they play in the tournament. So I think that St. John's definitely can get a little bit of a run going. And so I would prefer you just go ahead, push them further and further down the standings, keep it low profile, and I'll be able to cash up big in March.
Here's my problem with St. John's. They're a defensive juggernaut. They're a tremendous team. Their length, their athletes, they can get after you with press. They can get after you with half-court pressure. Defensively, there's no debate that St. John's is among the upper teams in college basketball. They're second in defensive efficiency. They're 20th in effective field goal percentage defensively. They're 7th in 2-point defense. They're 148th in 3-point defense. But it's their offense that concerns me. They are 334th in 3-point shooting. They've been hitting threes lately, but generally speaking, this year they've not hit threes. They are 248th effective field goal percentage. They're 73rd in offensive efficiency. Now they play up tempo. They're in the top 60 for adjusted tempo, but their free throw shooting is under 70%, and they're outside of the top 150, excuse me, in 2-point shooting. So that's my worry when it comes to the tournament for St. John's. I'm with you. I think there's real value on St. John's just because they're hard to play in a tournament setting. But man, they may win a game, like Michigan won at Nebraska last night, like 49-46. It may be really sweaty to bet St. John's in this tournament, no?
Yeah, and I think so. And what I like to see is that fact that they have been able to turn the shooting on. And so it makes me feel a lot better of, hey, I just need a streaky team. I'm not sitting out here saying that I need you to go out here. I'm probably not going to bet you for the national championship in every single round. But if I get somebody that's really, really streaky and we get one tournament where you can go out there and you can shoot the ball lights out and play the level of defense you play, yeah, they can find themselves in a Final Four, and then maybe they'll be tested by one of the greats in the league. But I like St. John's. I think they have a little bit of a run in them.
Year 2 under Rick Pitino has been the year. He went to the Final Four with Providence in year 2. He won the national championship with Kentucky in year 2. He took Louisville on a deep run in the tournament in year 2. He's in year 2 at St. John's. So this is the year for him when it comes to turning things around at the programs that Rick Pitino has been at. All right, talk about games tonight. Let's start with the game of the night. Neither one of us has a play on this game. Mississippi State on the road in Tuscaloosa. This is not, geographically wise, this is a pretty close, there'll be Bulldog fans in the building here in Tuscaloosa for this game. Alabama this year at home has been okay against the number, 7-6. Mississippi State on the road has been okay against the number, 7-7, but 5-9 in SEC play overall for the Bulldogs versus 9-5 for Alabama. Numbers 8.5. Terrell, can you lay it with the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I think I will. Not really the best feeling in this one, just because Mississippi State can get up very well defensively. But I just think that Alabama and Auburn and Florida have kind of started to separate themselves as a really, really strong force into this conference. And I don't know if this Mississippi State offense is going to have enough to be able to keep up, especially if Alabama's coming out there and saying, hey, we're going to put 90 on the board. You got to come play with us. Like, I think that things could be a little bit slow. I think Mississippi State will stay competitive. So I could see a first half line, but once you get into that second half and then Alabama just starts to shoot the light side of the gym and you're on the road there, it looks really, really glim here. So very, very short lean over there to Alabama.
Yeah, 8.5 is the number. 9 at KenPom, what they think this game is going to go. 173.5 in most books from a total perspective. Alabama is 8-4-1 to the under at home this year. It's kind of a weird anomaly. They've been a road machine to the over, 10-4. But at home, they've been an under team, 7-7 for the Bulldogs. They're flat. Both these teams are 8-6 in the SEC from a total perspective. Alabama under in the game against Kentucky. I bet over. It fell 179. I went over 180. Missed it by a point. Game closed 181. Last game out against Oklahoma, 93-87. The loss for the Bulldogs to Oklahoma. That game went over by 31 points. Do we see an over here at 173.5? Because I almost bet the over. I didn't, but I might before this game tips off.
I don't really have a play on it. I don't feel one way or another. I think Alabama's going to be able to do their part. So maybe if you tell me a good number and I play an Alabama team total over, then I think Alabama will do their part. But I think Mississippi State is the question mark because Mississippi State has been able to score in some of these high scoring games. But you can have a high scoring game and it can be like, what did you say this was 173?
173.5, yeah.
Yeah, so this could be a high scoring game. This could be 90-80 and not get over 173.5. Like that's the thing that would piss me off off. This is still a high scoring game. It doesn't get over the numbers. So I don't really have anything there. But if I were to play one way, it would probably be Alabama team total. I just trust Alabama to be able to score the basketball.
Game number 2 tonight, if we're looking at rankings, Cincinnati is hosting Baylor. This is a game I do have a play on. Bearcats need it. Baylor on the road has been horrible against the spread. 2-10-1 ATS. Cincinnati's played well over their last 5 games. They're 4-0-1 ATS over their last 5 games. Baylor is 1-4 over their last 5 games. Baylor is just a 5-11 mark in the Big 12. Cincinnati's not that much better at 6-9-1, but 6-9 at home. They have played much better of late at home against BYU. Big win for them, laying 1.5. They won by 18 at home against Utah. They were laying 8. They won by 10.
Oh,
covering in 3 straight losses for Baylor. How do you feel about Cincinnati and Baylor tonight?
Yeah, I actually had to play on Cincinnati too. I like Cincinnati here. I think Cincinnati is going to go ahead and get it done. Baylor has been really, really bad on the road here. 1-8-1 ATS on the road. Horrible. They've also been horrible as an underdog. In fact, they're 0-8 as an underdog this season. If they have ever been projected to be the losing team, they have lost. They have not covered. I think that this Cincinnati team has been playing really, really good. We got Jizzle James on that side of ball who's really starting to cook up, especially at home. And I think that guard play is going to be really, really tough for the Baylor Bears here, especially missing their star big man who's down with injury for the rest of the year. They're also missing a guard in Nunn as well. So yeah, I'm pulling for Cincy here. I think Cincy's going to be able to go ahead and get it done, and I bet Cincy as well.
There's numbers floating around at 2 or even 1.5. DraftKings is down to 1.5. I laid 2.5 on this, so I think Cincy wins the game. I don't think it's going to be that difficult to cover a 1 possession here, but the number's coming down. The play is late on Baylor. I don't know if there's going to be a scratch for a player for Cincinnati or not. So if you guys in the chat, if you see any Cincy injury news, let us know. But for the most part, I like the home team here, and the lower number, you guys will get a better number than me. I like Cincy. I'm with Terrell on this in terms of the number 1.5 or 2 for Cincinnati tonight at home against Baylor. I think they get it done. KenPom has it as a 1-point win for Cincinnati. So, I mean, maybe that's why the number's coming down, because the books are going to the bettors may follow what KenPom's projecting on a 70-69 win for Cincinnati. But I think it's only 122 money line. Thank you for the, you just do money line if you want to. You don't have to go too expensive with laying the price. If you want now at 1.5, you can say, forget it. Don't get beat on the hook. Just go ahead and take money line for Cincinnati tonight. And they need it. I mean, both teams need it, but I think Cincy at home tonight is a big win. Florida is on the road at Georgia. This is the other play that I've got today. And this number was 7. It's now come down 0.5 point to 6.5 for the Gators. These two teams played in Gainesville, and it was ugly when it happened. Georgia got housed by 30. They were 11.5 point dogs in that game. It was never close. Georgia on the road this year has not been Georgia at home this year has been much better than Georgia on the road. 10-6 ATS, Georgia. But Florida is 10-3 ATS on the road this year. They're 10-4 in the SEC. They've covered their last 6 games, and they're 8-2 over their last 10. Can you explain this to me, Terrell? Why are people betting Georgia? Because I think Florida by double digits tonight.
Well, I'm betting Georgia. So, and I like Florida. I'm on Florida. We talked about it. We like Florida to win national championship here. But this is also just a really much of a play on the spot. This is it. Like, after this game, Florida goes and they run the gauntlet of playing Texas A&M. They play Alabama and they play Ole Miss. 3 ranked teams, 2 top 10 teams. Like, it gets considerably harder from here. And this is the game you kind of overlook in that. And give Mike White some credit. He's taken a Georgia team that really hasn't been anything in the SEC at all, honestly. And he's given very, very competitive games against Florida. I know they got ran out of the building, but they kind of got caught in a weird spot because Florida was coming off of her amazing comeback that they had against South Carolina and being able to come back and still win that game when they should have dominated the course of the game. So it was a big bounce back spot for Florida at home there. They've been horrible on the road. I like I like Georgia. I think Georgia's way better at home. Blue Cane has a good day, and I think they keep this one close. As much of these games have been before, 5-point win, 6-point win, 4-point win in the games before that. I think that he drafts up a really good game plan, and they catch him in the second game and just make this one a close one.
I get your point, but if they were going to overlook somebody, they would have overlooked LSU over the weekend because, I mean, them and South Carolina are both horrible this year in the SEC. They beat South Carolina by 21 points back on the 15th. They beat LSU by 14 points. Both that game on the road against LSU, at home against South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, look, Georgia on the road has been decent. They just, they covered against Auburn. They were 15-point dogs. They lost by 12, but the 3 previous games, they lost by 13 against Missouri at home. They were catching 2. Missouri went down there and smoked them. They lost by 1 as favorites against Mississippi State at home. They've lost back-to-back home games straight up. They lost on the road by 16. Texas A&M. Georgia defensively is great, and you want to play the under. This team, I mean, amazingly, the last game went over for the first time against Auburn. The game, they're now 1-10, 10-1 to the under. That one happened in their last game on the road, but overs at home have actually come in pretty consistently for Georgia. They're 9-7 to the over, 8-5 to the under for Florida on the road. Otherwise, I would say bet the over in this game, but I just don't think Georgia can score. That's the problem with Georgia. Is over 149 is not a horrible play, Matthew. I don't hate it. I'm with you for real. I like Florida by 10. I think Florida is gonna. I have a 10-1 future on Florida to win it all. I think it's a bad matchup for Georgia. This is a top 10 team defensively and a top 10 team offensively for Florida. I think it's just too much for Georgia to handle. I get the pro move because the public's coming in on Florida, and it's okay. This is easy. Gators are going to be a 1 seed. They're going to kill Georgia, and they'll probably win the game by 5, and Terrell probably wins. But just the pros are taking Georgia. They took the 7. They're all 7s that are gone. We're now at 6.5. So if you want to trail the pros, trail Terrell, that's where the pro money's coming in. I'm just too high on Florida right now with the way that they're playing and just how explosive they have been. They're 4th in offensive efficiency. They're 7th in defensive efficiency. They're 3rd in effective field goal percentage on defense. They're 51st effective field goal percentage on offense. 4th in 3-point defense. 12th in 2-point defense. On the flip side, they score and they hit their free throws. They're just a real tough team. They rebound the basketball really well. They turn you over. They're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the entire country, top 10 in offensive rebounds. Yeah, good Addison, 26-1. I love that. That's tremendous. 26-1. Yeah, that's a great price on the Gators to win it all. And if you look at just where KenPom is, there's that stat that comes out every single week about teams that have to be ranked in the top 20 in both offensive and defensive efficiency for college basketball to be eligible to win the national championship. And it's been like 24 of the last 26 champions have all factored into that. And Florida consistently is on that mark of one of those teams that is on paper a really, really good basketball team. That should be able to do some big stuff for us. So I like the Gators. We'll see what happens here tonight for that one. The teams, by the way, that are currently fit the criteria for KenPom are Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, Duke, Auburn, Florida, Arizona, Clemson, Maryland. Those are the 9 teams that currently
Caleb
fit.
Love continues to find himself in national championship conversation.
I mean, it's 9. So the number is 96 of the national champions since 2001 have had a top 21 KenPom offense. And 91% of the national champions since 2001 have had a top 31 KenPom defense. Those 9 teams factor into that. I like Iowa State. I have a 20-1 ticket on Iowa State to win it all. I have a 10-1 ticket on the Florida Gators to win it all. Maryland I can't get behind them because it's really about their home. If they played the tournament in Maryland, I would agree. I mean, Maryland's won 13 straight home games, so I like Maryland there, but I can't get behind Maryland and Clemson too at home. But Houston, I'm going to have to find a way to bet Houston. I don't know yet. And how do you feel about Texas Tech? They lost last night at home to Houston. I'm just not that high on Texas Tech.
Texas Tech's never been one of those teams that I felt like I looked at and was like, oh, they're going to win the national championship. But they're like a team that I would look at and say, I don't know, if you give me enough points with them in the tournament, I'm probably going to take them and they're probably going to win. I feel like it's been plenty of years that they've been like a 9 seed and caught points as a 9 seed and got the win and moved on to the next round. So I don't really have anything other than my long-standing history of Texas Tech is a bridesmaid, but I'm never going to take them any further than that.
Tell us about fast break bets, Terrell. What are people getting from you? College, NBA, what are you guys hitting on?
Oh yeah, college, NBA, unrivaled, WNBA when it comes around. We played a one-on-one basketball tournament and we hit on that, so that was a very, very nice play. We get basketball any way we can here. Hey, if you got to play on overseas, let me know. I'll bet some overseas basketball. If you got an angle, and you make it sound right, I'll bet some overseas basketball, of course. So it doesn't matter. I'll do it all. Tune in every single weekday, fast break bets.
Oh my! All right, let's talk about some games that you like here because you are going off of the beaten path here a little bit. Tell me about San Diego State. Where are you rolling here with the Aztecs?
Yeah, I like San Diego State to go out here and get it done against New Mexico here. New Mexico hasn't been really New Mexico on the road this season, especially not in a dog standpoint. When they're a road underdog this season, they're 1-3 ATS, haven't been able to get it done. And I think that San Diego State, this is a big spot for both of these two teams. When you talk about seeding, you talk about moving on in the tournament, moving on to your conference tournament. I think San Diego State is the better team here, and they get the revenge. They played this game on the road and they got embarrassed over there in Nevada, in New Mexico, playing New Mexico. So I think that this is a really good spot to bounce back here. San Diego State get the split here. I like them to get it done.
It's a 4-point win for KenPom. So you're laying 2.5. So you're getting 1.5 of value here with that. And this factors into one of my favorite trend plays where a team goes on the road and loses in a conference game and then comes home and is a short favorite. Yeah. You've got a game against New Mexico. So they lost to Utah State in their last game. They're now back at home against New Mexico in a game, like you mentioned, that they need. KenPom has them winning out, which would have another 20-win season for Brian Dutcher and the Aztecs. So protecting the home court. They got 2 home games left. New Mexico and Nevada are on the road against Wyoming and on the road against UNLV for that one. So KenPom agrees with you, and you get a better number than what KenPom is thinking the game's going to fall. So you get 1.5 of value. My gut tells me that number is going to climb before we get to that game later on tonight. It's 2.5 at the moment still. Everywhere. Wow. The whole world's at 2.5. It didn't move either. Open 2.5.
A lot of money is on New Mexico. So it's really a lot of a line freeze here. A lot of money is pouring in on New Mexico, and the line hasn't moved at all.
There you go. So what the books think of this matchup. And then we're going to Virginia.
Yep. Love it.
We're taking Richmond. What's going with Richmond?
Yeah, 8-10 hoops here. It's too many points here. Richmond is catching in a rivalry game 15 points. Like, that is ridiculous. 14.5 here. In fact, VCU has not covered a number this large on the road in Richmond ever. They don't get numbers this big in this game. Like, that's how tightly contested. In fact, they haven't won by double digits playing in Richmond, which these schools are like 5 minutes apart. But they haven't played in that building and won by double digits since 2016. They were a 5.5 point favorite that game. They won by 11. In this span, they haven't been able to cover multiple times as 8-point favorites, 9-point favorites. They haven't been able to get it done, especially on the road here. And there's been a lot of parity in these Richmond and VCU teams, where you have a lot of Richmond teams that were down and a lot of VCU teams that were up going to the tournament, all of that, and still not able to get it done in years past. It's just a rivalry game that you don't lay this many amount of points in. These are two typically defensive teams. I expect for this matchup here to be a much, much lower scoring matchup and them not let VCU run all over them like I know VCU can. And I don't think Richmond's going to be able to score the basketball as well. Like, I think they struggle scoring the basketball. So I think this is an under type of game. I love Richmond catching the points here. I think it's way too much for a rivalry game. And again, VCU doesn't go into this building and blow them out. Like, that is one thing that doesn't happen. Richmond always finds a way to keep themselves in the game until the end, and then they just kind of let the game get away from them. But this is too many points.
Spires plus 14 here tonight for that matchup. Let me throw, and first I'm going to tell you about the Daily Juice podcast. So if you guys are watching this live stream and you don't know about the Daily Juice podcast, we don't just bet basketball. We bet everything, every sport, from golf to NASCAR college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, combat sports, boxing, UFC, everything hits you every single morning, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you haven't subscribed to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, well, you're on it right now. You should subscribe to it, hit the notification so you see when Fast Break Bets hits and when the Daily Juice comes out. Subscribe to it on Apple or on Spotify, wherever you guys get your audio podcasts as well. It's your first thing in the morning. We give you picks and plays and thoughts each and every day with myself for 15 minutes, a quick hitter right in the morning for you guys. Check out the Daily Juice podcast. I'm going to throw 3 prop bets at you, Terrell, because it's not college basketball, but you do NBA. So okay. I'll get your take on Daily Juice plays that I have thrown out there today. You tell me what you think about these prop bets. I think Dante Exum scores more than 6.5 points tonight for the Dallas Mavericks against Luka and the Lakers. It or no?
So I will say I was very close to betting this. I was. And so I do like the play. My thing is that the Lakers do not have the rim protection, and that is what Dante Exum does. And I think the slashing and being able to catch defenders slipping, especially on the Lakers, like the Lakers can get really, really soft defensively and let backdoor cuts happen and all this stuff like that. So that actually caters more to Dante Exum's skill set. So I think that he could find himself a few easy buckets, get himself to the line one time. He could definitely get over 6.5.
Donovan Mitchell, under 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Orlando is the opponent for the Cavaliers, number 1 defense in the NBA. They'll hold Donovan Mitchell down, it or no.
I didn't actually think of the Donovan Mitchell angle, but I did play the under for the game. So that was a fast break bets bet. We bet the under for the game. And so I do think that that's a good angle. You look at both these two defenses. Orlando's been the number 1 defense for like the past 10 games. Like they've been really, really solid. They have the size and the rim protection that kind of makes it tough for Donovan Mitchell to just slash and get to the rim as he wants. My only concern is if Orlando starts to foul a little bit and if they get him to the line and he kind of ekes over by getting to the line a lot. But other than that, yeah, I like it. I think we're good there.
And finally, Grady Dick and the Toronto Raptors, over 10.5 points for him against the Boston Celtics. I think there's legitimate some garbage time opportunities here for Toronto and for Grady Dick just to score. I think Boston will probably win the game big. They just destroyed the Knicks at home. Toronto's not good, but can I get 11 points out of Grady Dick?
Now that's the one that I don't know now, because we've seen, as much as I loathe the Boston Celtics, what I will give them is that when they lose to a team outright, especially lose to a team outright that was horrible, they do not play any games that second go round. They are coming out for blood. They if you remember, they lost to the Chicago Bulls. They were like 13-point dogs against Chicago Bulls, lost outright, came back and absolutely destroyed them. So there might not be a lot of scoring going around for the Toronto Raptors tonight.
Luka's number was 31.5. It's now 30.5. I'm not touching it, but if you were going to bet it, over or under 30.5 points for Luka tonight.
Okay, let me say this. I like the first quarter number of 8.5 and just taking the over for that and saying he comes out the game, he gets like 12 points and we're good. When we start getting to the back half, that's when I start to get nervous. But of course, I mean, come on, man. I'm a narrative bettor. Of course, I'm taking the over on Luka if you make me. Yeah, it's a what? This is a revenge game. We got to do it. But I much prefer the first quarter number.
That is the revenge game tonight in the NBA. Yeah, for college basketball, it's a wonky night. There's a lot of big numbers, a lot of double-digit spreads. So I would be careful here. Maybe it's a decent night to put some money line parlays together with some highly ranked teams, because there are some really heavy numbers that are out there, double digits and higher, 12, 13, 14-point lines that are out there. Our favorite bets today for us here on the live stream. I'm jumping in with Florida minus 6.5 here tonight, and Cincinnati minus 2.5 here, taking a couple of favorites. Terrell likes San Diego State laying 2.5 tonight, and Richmond catching 14.5 at home up against VCU. So hopefully it's a night for favorites and maybe one dog that comes in barking a little bit for us. Every Tuesday night, 5:30 Eastern time, 2:30 Pacific, we are here on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel so you are notified when we go live each and every Tuesday breaking down college basketball. He is Terrell Furman. I'm Matt Perrault. Talk to you next week for another episode of College Basketball Live Streams.